Hello, everyone. This is the library marketing team from HarperCollins Publishers, and we thank you so much for inviting us to be part of the Massachusetts Library Association annual conference. I'm Virginia Stanley. I'm the director of library marketing. Or with me,
hi.
With me is,
well, for one, Chris Connolly. Hello, also with the library marketing team. Thanks for having us, everyone.
thank you.
And I'm Lainey Mays, also with the library marketing team.
You're not just a random person?
No, not this time.
Not this
We are
time.
one.
We are one. We are family. Yeah, even Scooter's getting into it. Scooter's our cameraman in the video studio. So thank you so much. We have an hour to get to a lot of titles, but we wanted to, play your state song. Take pride in your state flag. And what do we have here to show for state Massachusetts love before we get going?
We have your state bug, the ladybug, which, interesting backstory on that. So it's the official insect of the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, and it came to fruition due to the efforts of a second grade class in Franklin, Miss Pamela Johnson's class. There was not a state bug. A student asked why, and they got to the bottom of it, and they pushed for the ladybug.
Bottom of it. Get it?
Ah, yes.
That's the cutest bug you could have.
Right?
Yes.
So, Massachusetts Library Association attendees, send in your comments, your quotes, your thoughts. If we have questions, if time at the end, we'll answer questions, but if not, we'll answer them all later on. And we'll put all your names into a basket, and somebody will win this lucky ladybug. All right, what else do we have? Lainey?
Oh, this is the yummy part. We have Boston cream pie. Here's everybody
Served on a delicious platter.
for.
And, we're just going to eat Boston cream pie for the next hour. Straight from Astoria, correct?
Straight from Astoria.
Astoria, Queens. And, of course, the obligatory beans. And, hey-oh, we like the Mets and the Yankees, but we love you guys, too. All right, so, is that it?
That's pretty much it.
Onward we go.
But our love continues.
Our love continues with books. And so we shall start. Who's going first?
Well, and I'll just mention before we begin that we do have an amazing author panel lined up for you tomorrow. Yes, featuring 3 incredible yet different mystery and thriller authors based in Massachusetts. So we have Paul Tremblay, whose upcoming short story collection, Growing Things and Other Stories, is coming this summer. He also wrote Cabin at the End of the World, which I think kind of pushed him to the next level of, scary and acclaim. He also wrote Disappearance at Devil's Rock, and then A Head Full of Ghosts, which was his debut, which was incredible, like a crazy, interesting play on the exorcism story. We have Catherine Hall Page, The Body and the Wake, and then Peter Swanson, Before She Knew Him. So all 3 authors are going to be at your conference tomorrow, from 11:30 to 12:30 in the Middlesex room. It's the Mystery in Massachusetts panel. So we love all of these authors.
We do.
And they all, again, bring something very interesting and unique to the mystery thriller genre. So we highly recommend you go check them out.
And they all
Books
live
will
in
be there.
Massachusetts.
And they all live in Massachusetts.
So have them at your library.
Yes. So,
If you want, call us up. We'll
Yes.
try and make that happen.
For sure. Okay, so
Alright.
that's that. You all should have handouts there. They look like, not like that, more like this. So all the book details that we're talking about you can find there.
Let's see, Chris.
There you go.
Okay.
Ah,
Ooh,
shiny,
wow.
papery.
Okay.
Full of
So everybody
information.
has that, hopefully?
Yes.
Good. Okay, so we'll
Alright.
start.
Yes, let's start. So we have a really interesting sports biography memoir coming out from Mike Erozione, who is part of the Miracle on Ice team. He was the captain of that 1980s U.S. Olympic hockey team, and he actually scored probably the most famous hockey goal that's ever been scored against the Soviets. That, is the amount of recognition for this, like that goal, Eruzione's goal, was recognized in 2008 as ESPN Sports Center's #1 greatest sports highlight, and then Sports Illustrated named it the #1 sports moment of the 20th century. Mike, this is actually the first memoir by any of the Miracle on Ice alum, which is really surprising. And this is Mike, who is a Boston, Massachusetts resident, and he grew up in Winthrop, Massachusetts. And this tells his story starting from his kind of hardscrabble beginning in Winthrop, and then working your way through his story where he barely made the Boston University squad, where he was called Pete Rose on skates apparently, and the struggles through the minor leagues, and then eventually finding himself on this team full of college kids and unsigned amateurs who basically took on the greatest hockey team in the world in the Russians and upset them. So this is a great celebration of an amazing time in sports history. We're publishing this time to the 40th anniversary of that game, which took place in February of 1980. And this is coming January 28th. So you can get it, hug it, read it, and prepare to celebrate however you want to for that game. We're so excited about this. Again, as of right now, it's untitled, but just stay tuned. There'll be much coming there. And for any of you Massachusetts Library Association members, if you ask a question and make sure you mention you're part of the conference, we ordered this last week. It's an official Mike Ruzioni jersey. It did not arrive. It's sitting in the post office somewhere, but comment, you'll be entered for a chance to win it when it does arrive. We'll send you the piece of paper as well with the printout. But there's a
it's only for your teddy bear.
Yes. But it's a real jersey too, so check that out.
Hopefully somebody in the post office isn't wearing it right now, sorting.
Big Mike Ruzioni fan.
All right. So that's pretty cool.
Yes.
I remember that game, right? You guys? Not cool. Anyway, so sad. It was so emotional. Okay. My book, Nothing to See Here, by Kevin Wilson. So this is Kevin Wilson of Family Fang and Perfect Little World, Historic Collections Tunneling to the Center of the Earth. So this is his forthcoming book, goes on sale November 5th. This is our lead read title for the season, for fall, which is a campaign, an initiative that our sales force has, where they go through all these manuscripts and they find the gem, and this is the one that they feel is going to resonate with readers across the board. And I love this book. So this is the story about a woman whose life is just not turning out the way she thought that it could have, and something comes along that her past harkens back and pulls her out of sort of the depths of this despair, and she ends up caring for these two children, and it changes her life. That's the big picture, and I've found that I should not talk too much about this book, because I feel like part of the joy of the book is discovering what happens in the story within the pages of this book. Nothing to See Here. But basically, when you first meet these two women, they're friends at an elite boarding school. One is sort of a ragtag. She got there on a scholarship. She was a smart kid. The other one was elite herself. And so they're very different, and they're thrown together, and they become fast and furious friends. But something happens while they're at school, and one of them goes away, and the kid who's got all the money stays. And the one who leaves because of this scandal goes back to her life, and it's not a very nice life. And fast forward, and this friendship is rekindled when her former friend reaches out to her. Now her friend is married to this up-and-coming politician, and his wife is no longer in the picture, and so he needs to take his two children back from that marriage, and so he's raising them. And it's the woman at the center of the story. It's her stepchildren, and she can't handle them. There's something up with these kids, and so they need to put a great face forward to the public. He's an up-and-comer in politics, and so she reaches out to her old friend, who she hasn't spoken to, and says, would you want to let bygones be bygones, and would you consider watching these two kids, my stepchildren? And so she's okay, and so she does it. And there's something up with these kids, and that's the catch. I'm not going to say any more than that, because I think it's the fun is for you to find out. But for sure, there's something that makes them very unusual and very hard to have in public at times. And so it's a great opportunity for this woman to rekindle this friendship for whatever that value is, but also to sort of tap into something that she never knew that she had, which was this care and love for somebody other than herself, and she gets very protective of these kids. And it's just a great story, and it's funny, and it's a little wacky, and it's a little absurd, but at the same time I find it very genuine and tender. I love this book so much, and I can't wait for you to read it and tell me what you think. So that's Nothing to See Here by Kevin Wilson, coming out in November.
Double love.
So much love. I just want to read it again every time I talk about it. I'm like, I'm going to read it again. But I envy anybody who hasn't read it. I envy people who get to read it for the first time. That rarely happens. Okay. The Dutch House by Ann Patchett. How beautiful is that jacket? So Ann Patchett, this is a sort of a drop-in title. It is coming out in September. It goes on sale. It goes on sale on September 24th. I just sang my way out of that mistake. September 24th, it goes on sale. So this is the Dutch House. And this is a story. At the heart of this story are two siblings, sister and a brother. And what happens to them when family as they knew it sort of disappears, falls away. And all they have is each other. So the Dutch House is the home that they grew up in on the outskirts of Philadelphia. Their father was a real estate guy, and he made a lot of money. And so they lived there with their parents. But their mother, she went off and she went to do charitable work in India. And so she sort of like abandoned these kids. And fast forward about 10 years, and the father remarries. And he marries this woman who's just in it for the loot. I mean, he loaded this guy, and they have their own kids. And so the children at the center of the story from the very beginning, the brother and the sister, are sort of exiled. They're sort of tossed out of the house as they get older. And so they're back to where they first came from, because they didn't really have anything until the father, sort of made his fortune with real estate, and then they became wealthy, and the Dutch House was at the center of the story, and it was exhibited the wealth. So it's really about these two siblings. It's about inheritance and family and loyalty and trust, and where you think you are in the world, and memory, and what you think happened, maybe didn't happen, and how you sort of rely on each other. And then something happens which makes them have to go back and face realities and sort of things that took place in people that sort of let them down in the past. And so that's what's happening in the Dutch House. I mean, Ann Patchett, she's a master. She does families. She does those great big chewy family stories like nobody's business. So that's the Dutch House, and so excited to have that book on the list, and that comes out in September 24th, as I sang to you before.
Before we move on to the next title, I printed this off and I completely forgot about it. This is the Sports Illustrated cover for the March 3rd issue, 1980. This is the celebration following Mike Eruzione's goal. This is the team. It's kind of like a famous shot, so I just wanted to share it. And I'm taking up more time.
Very emotional.
It's a little, just a little emotional. Literally no one expected, these amateurs to be the Russians.
Underdogs.
Yeah, so really, really cool.
Pretty cool.
Yes.
Put your name in, you might get this picture too. And she's definitely getting the jersey.
I'm scanning comments here. A lot of love. Rosemary loves Ann Patchett. Ryan Donovan said, please let us know if any of the book covers are not final. Any covers we show are final, Ryan, and then if we don't have a cover, we're showing you author photos because they're all so amazing and beautiful and smart. So we'll be doing that.
Speaking of, we have
Speaking
an
of.
author photo right here. The lovely Zora Neale Hurston.
Can I hold it?
Yeah, sure. She's going to have some pie, I guess. So Zora Neale Hurston, we have this new book called Hitting a Straight Lick with a Crooked Stick, which makes me so happy every time I say it. But we all know Zora Neale Hurston. We all love her. We know Their Eyes Are Watching God was featured on PBS's Great American Read. It was one of the top 100 beloved novels of America. And even more recently, we had Barracoon, which we published last year, and that was her nonfiction, and it really showed the vernacular in her stories coming through in this nonfiction story that was really beautiful. Please go check it out. But this new story compilation we have, it's short stories or articles. It's a collection of 21 stories. And after her complete works were done in 1995, I think there really has been this resurgence in the Harlem Renaissance and learning more about Zora Neale Hurston and her contemporaries. And so people went and searched old periodicals and archives, and they found these 21 stories, including 8 quote-unquote lost Harlem Renaissance tales. And they are recovered, and for the first time to a national audience, they're all compiled in this book. And I think she was really big upon her with her contemporaries in the Harlem Renaissance, so she kind of used her work to get in with those people and have this just cultural phenomenon happen. So I think it really shows her contribution to literature and everything that has gone into it, her evolution as a writer in these stories. You see her kind of grow from college on. And she also has this satire, which is she's really known for, but you also have this undercurrent of gender issues and race relations. And so you get to see that evolve too, which is really cool. And you just get this profound sense of this pride. She's really great at vernacular and African-American culture in America, but also folklore. She's really known for that. So we all love Zora, and I think this is going to be a really great add to the collection. And just announced, Tiari Jones is going to write the foreword, so that's exciting.
Wow.
Beautiful.
Oh, Zora.
Beautiful. Absolutely beautiful.
All right, it's me, and I have an author photo for you. We have a really interesting debut coming that we're all really excited about at HarperCollins, Africaville by Jeffrey Colvin. This is Jeffrey right here. Again, this is his debut. He's been writing fiction reviews and essays for a while, and he's won a lot of fellowships and grants. He's widely recognized. And he has a really interesting backstory, so much like my own. It's actually not at all like my own. He served with the Marines. He went to the Naval Academy, Harvard, and Columbia. I didn't do any of those things. So hats off, a tip of the cap to Jeffrey for his service, but also just his amazing accomplishments there. And he lives in New York City, but this is a story set in Nova Scotia. It's a historical novel, kind of epic. It's structured as a triptych, which is something I had to look up. I didn't know what that meant, but in art, it's basically a story told in 3 parts, 3 separate parts. But it all follows one family who basically settled in this real-life town of Africville, which was a town settled by former slaves in the 1700s, a very small, tight-knit community, incredibly unique. And it follows this family, the Sebault family, which started with Kath Ella, who's kind of the matriarch in this story. And her family has this long history in Africville. And she kind of wants things to stay as they are. She has a son, Omar, and she's kind of trying to protect her family from the outside world. But inevitably, with any small town, but particularly one like this, which faces so many obstacles and prejudices, things change and people want to move out, and the demographic changes. So you follow Kath Ella, but then you also follow Omar, her son, who just wants something different for himself. He's kind of growing up now in the 60s. This takes place basically from the 30s to the 80s, this story. And so Omar moves out, and he sees this very changing landscape in this changing city, and he just wants something else. And then you also follow Kath Ella's grandson, Warner, who's now in the 80s and also facing a very, very different society. And all of this is kind of given weight and centered, again, in this town of Africville. But it takes you from Montreal and Vermont and even to the deep south of the U.S. And it's all told very lyrically, just this beautiful historical fiction novel. But it is at the heart of this. It's just this epic family saga inspired by a very unique and relatively unknown piece of history. Africville was actually demolished in the 1960s, and its inhabitants were relocated. Canada actually realized their mistake, and it's now kind of been called back and recognized as a historically vital piece of history. But again, this is the debut, but it does not read like a debut. It's epic and just told with so much heart and feeling. And again, within HarperCollins, this is a big deal for us. We're really excited about it. It's coming December 10th. Hopefully we'll have a jacket soon to share with you guys. Keep your eyes peeled for this one, Africaville.
So it's interesting because the book is Africaville, but the actual place was Africville, right?
Yeah, and I think it just helps people recognize, kind of what's going on here. But yes, you're correct. The novel is Africaville, but the actual place was Africville. No way. So, just an important.
Yeah, yeah, it is good to know. When I first read it, I was like, I honestly thought it was a typo. So it's good to just distinction. Anyway,
Anywho.
Next, we have Country by Michael Hughes. There we go. So, Country, it's set in the mid-1990s in Northern Ireland, 25 years after a vicious conflict between IRA and Britain. So, this uncivil war, if you will, is going on 25 years later. They're going to call ceasefire, and everyone is it's very hard for everyone because they've done all these battles, and they're like, well, we're just going to walk away. So, you have some people who are not happy about it, but some people want to save the ceasefire. And then you have an IRA man's wife. She turns informer, so he takes a lot of friends and groups and they're going to rally together and go and do this assault on the local army base. So then you have the British SAS coming, and they're going to crush this uprising going on so they can save the ceasefire. And so you have this kind of battle over a ceasefire, which is really interesting. And as this is going on, you really get this great storytelling from Michael Hughes, and it's dark and there's this horror to it, but it's just beautiful. And it's a reimagining of Homer's Iliad, which is really cool. And you just see through it all, he weaves contemporary battles in the 90s and ancient myths, and you tell this everlasting struggle between the idea of what your country is and what it's like when you're going through the Civil War. A lot of people know what that's like, and this idea of pride. What is that? Exciting things about it. It's the Hughes' first novel in the U.S., and it's already been published in the UK, and there's been a lot of rave reviews for it, so I think it's going to be received really well here too. The Guardian said thrilling, Observer said brutally sharp, and then we have like bold and imaginative from the Spectator. And it's pubbing 1 month after the 50th anniversary of British troops occupying Northern Ireland. So you have this true story as well, but you just really see it in this, tell as old as time, really, and what it means to be in your country. So it's a beautiful cover too. I love the cover. I think it really tells everything about it. You have these battles and this like deep-seated pride coming through them, and it's going down through the roots.
It is beautiful.
Yeah.
And our friend Joanne at the Massachusetts Library Association conference did mention, for those of you attending, there are some copies of some galleys in the conference room somewhere. I can't see, but somewhere. Be civil, but there should be one for you. So please do pick up a copy.
I am next, I believe.
You are next. Yes.
I am next with a very important book that we are publishing in January. This is My Dark Vanessa by Kate Elizabeth Russell. This is a debut that has set us all back on our heels here at HarperCollins, and I don't say that lightly. This is a book that is extraordinarily compelling and tough to read, but I join my colleagues in saying that it is a must-read. So this is about a young woman who is 15 years old, and she enters into a relationship with her teacher, and he grooms her. She is very awkward. She is very, she's 15. There are some 15-year-olds who seemingly have it together, and others who are finding their way, and she's finding her way. And he really, he sees that, and he grooms her, and he manipulates her, and she falls in love with him. And this is that story. This is the story of her relationship with this man, which defines her for the rest of her life, frankly. When we're reading the book, the relationship that she enters into with this man starts in the year 2000. In 2017, he is still somewhat in her life, but there's been another student at the school who is now pressing charges against him for acting inappropriately, and this completely, she's already sort of, her world is, as I say, very defined by this experience, and it calls into question for her everything that relationship was, and she has to rethink everything about that relationship. And what was it really? Was she just one of many, or was this something, as he said to her over and over again, that she was the love of his life? And so this is a very difficult book to talk about in a way that I can compel you to try and pick it up, because it's not an easy read. It is uncomfortable. It's very hard to put down, because you just watch how this unfolds and what it does to both of them. The editor came in, she read this on submission. It set off an industry-wide frenzy, sold into 24 territories and probably more than that by now. It's a book buzz for BEA. I'm telling you, this book touches on a lot of topics that are timely now, were timely then, sadly will probably always be timely, but it is the way it is written in the hands of this responsible writer who has a PhD in creative writing. She came into the office, we met her. I never saw any kind of a reception for a debut author, because so many people here had read this book and couldn't wait to meet her. It just touches on a lot of layers surrounding sexual abuse, manipulation, grooming, what does consent look like, who is complicit, who gets to be the victim. I don't like the way that sentence sounds, but I hope you know what I mean. I think this is a really hard book to explain, but I hope that you will take my word for it and try it. Lainey, thoughts?
It's an amazing book. I think it is very hard to talk about, because you don't want to trivialize anything. You don't want to make it simple, because it's not. But also, what's really cool to me about this book is you're on this journey with her. So she's trying to understand her past, and she, when you think about some things and you get a new revelation of that's not how that really was, it's painful and you feel it for her, and she's just trying to put her life together in a way that makes sense to her and what she thought. And so I liked being on that journey with her. Yeah. It's beautiful, beautifully written. Yes.
It does make you feel uncomfortable, and it makes you look at how sexual abuse can look like seduction. Okay, we could talk about it for forever. I hope that you will take a look at this and let us know what you think. So it's an important book, and that is my Dark Vanessa by Kate Elizabeth Russell. Highly, highly recommend. Goes on sale in January. Good?
Yeah, it's not a niche book. I think there's something for every single person who reads it. I was on Goodreads just reading reviews on it, and it's just resonating with so many different people in so many different ways. But it's an incredible book. I can't stop thinking about it. I lost myself over the weekend in it. And
you did? Yeah.
Yeah.
And one of our librarian friends, Greg Windsor, he's on Goodreads, and that was one of the first reviews that I had read as from a librarian. I thought, oh, here we go, and it's a male, and I wonder how that's going to be for him to read. And it was a glowing review. And also, he did say that it's not a comfortable book, but he also pointed out that's probably what some of the point of this was. It shouldn't be comfortable. We could talk about this for a long time, but I hope that you'll read it and talk about it and let us know what you think. So, okay.
Up with Stealing Green Mangoes, Two Brothers, Two Fates, One Indian Childhood by Sunil Dutta. So Neale has a really interesting life. He basically served for the LAPD for over 2 decades. Before that, he was a biologist and also a translator of classic Indian poetry. But before all of that, he was a refugee. Continually timely topic. But he was one of many who was uprooted by genocidal violence in India, the partition of India. I'm just moving the book too much, sorry. And he had a brother, and basically this is a story of how these two brothers went in wildly different directions with their lives. Sunil is, you gathered from his bio, extremely successful. He gives a lot of talks kind of on subjects of homeland security, terrorism. Why specifically terrorism? Well, he has a brother who he admired and looked up to when they were kids, Raju. Raju went on to become a felon. He fled the law. He became a fugitive. He became a terrorist. He also became a father and a murderer. just a wildly tragic, different path that his brother took. And so Neale, he was diagnosed with stage 4 lung cancer later in his life, and this kind of compelled him to look back on the paths that he and his brother took and kind of make sense of everything. And that's what this story is. It's a story of their lives and how these two came to live very, very different lives despite coming from a very similar, uprooted background. It's so powerful and epic, and it has so much important information to talk about. We're kind of think of When Breath Becomes Air for this. But full of great characters. It's a rewarding book with, again, I think just Neale brings such an incredible perspective and poise to this subject. It really is a breathtaking book. It's coming in October 1st, so I do hope you'll check it out. That's Sealing Green Mangoes. So, thank you very much.
So then we have The Language of Flowers. So I don't have any spreads or a photo, but I do have a picture of the author, Odessa Begay.
Yes, I got it.
Thank you. So The Language of Flowers, we know that flowers and their meanings, and if you didn't know, the language of flowers as a covert way to send messages is called floriology. Didn't know that. So that goes back to the beginning of time. People use flowers as a really expressive way, colorful way to show how they're feeling, sometimes as secret messages or not so secret if someone knows what they mean. But there have been many books on this, the origin, the names of flowers, what they mean to individuals, but this is a comprehensive language of flowers. So much research was put into this. Odessa is a really beautiful artist. She's done a lot of adult coloring books, Little Birds, Edgar Allan Poe. Go check out her Instagram. It's just her name, ODESSABEGAY, and you can see her beautiful artwork. But she has put these old books, they're not as beautiful and 4-color. She's taken that and she just brought this to life. So this is a 4-color book, and it's not a Victorian remake in any way. There is a book of this name, but it's not that. She did a lot of research on botanical origins, naming of the plant, cultural and religious customs, the Greek, Roman, Egyptian mythology. I can go on and on. She just put all this in this book, and it's not heavy. It's really light, and you get to know all these fun facts about these flowers. But things mean so much. These flowers can represent so much. One fun fact is Kate Middleton and her wedding, she carried sweet Williams to show her love for William. So these,
Clever Kate.
So they just mean so much. Even today, we're using these to convey
I'd
common language.
I'd carry some Boston cream pie if I was getting there and carry that down the aisle.
So in each section of the book, there's the plant's common name, the Latin name, meaning as determined by the author from her research. And it goes on and on. For example, like under pansies, they talk about who cultivated them to look a certain way, but also they tell a story of a daughter of a British aristocrat. So you just get this kind of all-encompassing view of a flower and really beautiful artwork. I think at launch we were all blown away by the presentation by the editor for this book because she was just so passionate about it. She loves this book so much. They worked really close, hand in hand, her and the author. She told a story about how vanilla is really seen as vanilla is really plain, but it really a lot goes into making vanilla and a lot of hard work. You can only plant it 1 or 2 days after it blooms in this way. It's a product of the only fruit-bearing orchid there is, which is really cool. And a lot of the times we think of vanilla as plain is because that's really not what we're tasting. It's not the real vanilla. And Jefferson brought it over to the United States after he had it in France on ice cream. So there's so many fun facts.
Yeah.
He brought it over to make ice cream, sorry, but he had it on a dessert in France. So he brought vanilla over. So you just learn all these really fun things. But I don't have any spreads, like I said, but I've been reading some of the information, and there's just a lot of fun facts, like I said, but it's really heavily researched, but it's not hard to read. Like she tells you Vanilla planifolia is indigenous to Mexico, and it goes here. It's really cool. And all the different versions of orchids. I could go on and on, but I have a new appreciation for flowers now.
I'm totally
That was
into
great.
this.
That was really, really good, Lainey. When Lainey's right, when they launched it, it was like, that is really interesting, and the illustrations are so cool. Yeah. I think it's going to be really neat. Really neat.
And that comes out in March 2020, so be excited. And it's not a Victorian remake. It's not bland like vanilla, like you think. We're bringing vanilla back, guys.
Working vanilla back.
You are hilarious. Vanilla, the misunderstood flavor. All right, wait, we forgot this because I put my. What else is Boston and Massachusetts popular, known for? Dr. Seuss. We can spend the rest of the time just reading. There's a rocket in my pocket. I'm not going to say a word about that. But anyway, there's that. Dr. Seuss. We love him. That's going into the package of presents. Also, I know this isn't on your handout, but tomorrow, happy book birthday for one of the best books I've read this year, even last year, even my whole life. This is How to Forget by Kate Mulgrew. If you are a fan of Kate Mulgrew, you will love this. If you have never seen Kate Mulgrew in anything, you will love this. This doesn't matter that Kate Mulgrew is an actress. What matters is that that woman is a fierce and beautiful writer, and she has made me care, and everybody who's read this book, she has made them care about her parents, who they were together before they met, then when they met, then when they had a whole bunch of kids, and sadly, at the end of their life, what was happening to their family. And it's absolutely beautiful, and I cannot stress on us enough how much I love this book. So How to Forget goes on sale tomorrow by Kate Mulgrew.
And you have to listen to Virginia's interview on our podcast. It's wonderful.
Yes, Kate Mulgrew came in here and sat at this very video studio, and we did an interview, a Facebook Live, which I don't know, it's been seen like 14,000 times or something crazy. And the audio is also, as Lainey said, on a podcast. You can find all that stuff on Library Love Fest, but so excited about that book. Anyway, that's probably the last time I'll talk about it for the day. All right. Who's going next?
You. Separation.
Separation anxiety. I don't believe I have
You
anything.
have an author.
I have an author. Is this that? Is it?
Yes, that's her.
Laura Zigman. Laura Zigman, who lives in Cambridge, Massachusetts, whose hometown was Newton, Massachusetts. What?
Yeah, you got it. Yeah.
Am I good?
Yeah.
All right.
Excuse me.
Okay. So, anyway.
Oh, wait. No, sorry.
What's wrong?
I was going to say, I think it's that one.
Sorry, this is...
Who's this?
We'll find out later.
That's Mercy
That was
House.
a little teaser.
Well, that's
for what's
Mercy
to come.
House. Oh, I can't wait to talk about Mercy House, too. I have such great books. I'm so excited. Sorry. So, Separation, that is Laura Zigman.
Yes.
Laura Zigman, who wrote Animal Husbandry quite some time ago. She is back now. She is back and better than ever. This is, it's a very funny but very touching book about a woman who has kind of come to the crossroads in her life. She is married and has a son. They have a son together. But he's a teenager now. He's a teenager. He's monosyllabic. He's not the little, he's not the little kid that you could squish and kiss and cuddle and he would give it right back to her. Now he's, I don't forget how old he is. He's 13 or 14. He just doesn't, he's just not communicative anymore. And she and her husband do not have a very good relationship. In fact, they are technically, in their hearts, they're separated, but neither one of them can afford to move out, so they're separated in the house. So they tell the son that it's because he snores and that's why dad's in the other room. But he doesn't know. They don't think he knows that there's, that the marriage is not going well and that they're separated. And so she's at a loss. She's got this massive void in her life. And I love the voice of this character so much. It's just a great novel, but it's very authentic. To me, it really resonated, but it's also it's kooky. I kind of like books that are kooky, but also have a real heart to them, and this one does. So she's upstairs in her attic, and she's going through a bunch of stuff, and she finds this sling that was meant for her baby when she had him a million years ago, and she never used it. And so, but she's aching for something to hold, some warmth, some connection, because she didn't have it with her husband and she's losing it with her son. But they have a dog, and so she puts the dog in the sling and she wears the dog. And that's funny and sort of sad. And she's like, take it or leave it. I'm wearing the dog. And she had that's her little quirky thing. And so she sort of goes through life now. The kid has to sort of like, oh yeah, it's my mother with her dog, strapped to her. So that's just sort of like the framework where you get the idea of where her head is at. And then it delves more into their relationship. She has her very close friend is dying. I mean, it sounds heavy, but there's so much light in it. And I don't know. I just love this book because I feel like it's got so much heart and so much connective tissue. Do you know? And I feel like it's very real. I think that it's very relatable. Although I really wouldn't walk around with a dog, but I'm sure that there are people who do walk around with dogs or carry them, or there's something to be said for people who use animals for their, to calm them. Anyway, it's tender, it's sweet, it's funny. You pull for her. She was a children's illustrator. She had written a children's book, and that she had some success. And she's trying to find herself, but I think I love it so much because I find it very, very real. I find the voices so charming and authentic, and she has separation anxiety. But read the book and see what happens. So that's by Laura Zigman, and that is coming out in March 2020. So you have something really good to look forward to. Wait, one quote. I must read one quote. Alice Hoffman says, separation anxiety is a hilarious, heartbreaking, and thought-provoking portrait of a difficult marriage, as fierce as it is funny. Zygmunt's sharp eye for contemporary life is a revelation. My advice, start reading and don't stop until you get to the last page of this wise and wonderful novel. Alice Hoffman said it way better than I said it.
There's a scene somewhat early on. She's in, I think, a gymnasium talking to her son's class about being an author, and she has like this kind of zany hat that she wears.
Yeah.
And the internal monologue, I guess, like
part.
when she's observing and like kind of reckoning with herself, and then she just like kind of clicks. And the voice is just really, really good. Like I don't know if I'm the target demographic.
But you
I don't
liked
know,
it.
but
Yeah.
I loved
Yeah.
it. Like it's really
It was very
good.
quirky and very fun, but you understand her pain, but she's
Yeah.
trying to figure it out too.
Yeah.
But the hat's fun.
The bird on your head.
which
the bird
I
on
think
your
is
head.
my favorite part because
Yeah.
it sums it up so well.
Yeah.
You just have to read it.
Yeah.
Go read it.
It's really good.
Yeah.
Okay. Me again. I'm not even going to pick out any more author photos because what do I know? Ribbons of Scarlet. How are we doing on time? Are we doing okay,
We have,
Christopher?
What, 20 minutes?
We have 20 minutes? Okay, I'm going to be very, very fast on this. I'm not going to go into all the description that I was going to because I can't help myself. Ribbons of Scarlet. This is a novel of the French Revolution's women. So this is a very cool idea. This is written by 6 best-selling historical fiction authors. You have Kay Quinn, right? Alice Network, Stephanie Dre, and Laura Camoy, My Dear Hamilton. That's just the beginning. This is a grouping of women, of historical fiction authors who have written the French Revolution from the perspective of different women of different ranks in life and society during the French Revolution. So if you think you know everything about the French Revolution, you're wrong, because this is a timely book about the power of women, how they, they gather together and they stake their claim. I can't do it justice because we don't have a ton of time, but I don't think you don't need me to drill down to every single person in this book. I could do it, but I'm not going to. But late 18th century France, women don't have a place in politics until the tide of the revolution rises, and women from gilded salons to the streets of Paris decide otherwise, upending a world order that has long oppressed them. That's all you need to know, and in the hands of these authors, it's just a great, great ride. There's a PS section in the back. I don't know, what else can I tell you so quickly? Nothing. I can't do anything quickly. I can tell you what else is in the book. Heather Webb, what?
I was just going to say a few of them will be our guests this summer at ALA.
At ALA, Stephanie, yes. We will have Laura Camoy and Stephanie Dre will be at ALA, and they can come talk to you all about it because they're doing a United for Libraries program about book clubs. So come by if you're coming to ALA and get a copy, meet them, and they'll tell you more about Ribbons of Scarlet, novel of the French Revolution's women. Boom.
I see a question. Ryan Donovan asked if there will be an audio version published of Kate Mulgrew's
Yes,
book.
she did it herself, and
Yeah.
she's amazing. Did I mention this book? I'm only kidding. Yes, she did. She did. In fact, if you go to her Facebook page, you'll find a video where she has read a little snippet of. She recorded the whole book. Her voice is amazing, and so she read a little snippet of the book of the actual audio recording. Actual recording of the audiobook. You can see her do it on Facebook Live, on her Facebook page. And yes, it is available as an audiobook. That is my long-winded answer to your question.
Yay.
Yay.
Okay.
Ah, she's so amazing.
All right. Next book. I have an author photo. I know it's him. The one and only Ewan Colfer, High Fire. So this is an adult novel by the acclaimed New York Times bestselling author of the Artemis Fowl series. Ewan shows no signs of slowing down, nor does Artemis. There's the Artemis Fowl movie coming out August 9th. The series is going to be reissued this year, kind of a staggered release. And then there's an expansion, 2-book expansion, The Fowl Twins, coming out later this year. But this is an adult novel, so a lot of those Artemis Fowl original readers are now older. They want something with a little more edge to it, a little more adult-esque. And this is this. So this is coming in January, and it's a standalone about a hermit dragon, the last of his kind, who lives in the bayous of Louisiana. His original name was Wyvern, Lord Highfire of the Highfire Eyrie. But now he just goes by Vern, and he lives in a shack, and he watches a lot of Netflix, and maybe drinks a little too much vodka, and is just kind of, whiling away the time until the inevitable end. Sounds really depressing, but it's not. This is a really heartfelt, funny story that follows Vern as he cross paths with Everett Squibb Moreau, who's a 15-year-old troublemaker who was on the run from a psychotic sheriff who has been pursuing Squibb's mom. And Squibb kind of takes things into his own hands, and he pisses off the wrong guy, and so he's on the run, and he crosses paths with Vern. And it's basically their story of survival as they're on the run. It takes them all over the place, including New Orleans. So it's very funny, but again, heartfelt, scary, irreverent. Again, this is an adult novel. But I think it has a lot there that will, of course, all of the Artemis Fowl adult fans now will flock to this, but I think it will win a lot of new fans who maybe aren't familiar with that series. Just a really, really fun, unique novel. It's a page-turner. It's perfectly commercial, but really smart at the same time. We have some early reads on this in the office, and people are gaga for it. So a lot of reasons to be excited about this book. Again, it's on sale February 4th. Hopefully we'll have a jacket relatively soon. Until then, say hello to Ewan right here, and keep tabs on this one because it will be big. That's High Fire, Ewan Colfer.
Okay, so next is Valentine by Elizabeth Wetmore. Here's Elizabeth. I get very nervous talking about this one in this amount of time because I don't think I can tell you how much I love this book. It is a stunning debut. I'm not kidding. I'm in my second read of A Paper Galley. It's so good. You have to read this book. So this is a story that is told in such a revolutionary way. It's so interesting. But it centers around a girl who's 14 years old, Gloria Ramirez. She survives a vicious attack in an oil field in Odessa, Texas in the 70s. And at the hands of this man who is grandfathered into this privilege of being a man in the 70s in Odessa, Texas. But so you see this happen to this girl, and the unfurling of the events after, you see through the eyes of the women in the community looking on Glory, and through Glory herself. You just get this raw, beautiful story, and you see each of their personalities come out. Elizabeth does such an amazing job with each of the characters, and you just get this kind of old Texas field, oil fields, and Elizabeth herself spent some time painting silos and cooling towers in Texas, which she's had like any job imaginable. And so I think that helps her see these perspectives of all these women coming from different aspects of life. You have a local mother who's going to try to stand up for Glory, and you have an older widow who is trying to come to terms with her husband's passing, and you have a little girl who's dealing with her mother being gone, and it's so beautiful. I think personally, when I was reading it, it's an ancestor of Flannery O'Connor. I think it's just that, if I say that, you know what I mean. It's raw, it's beautiful, but these characters just stay with you, and they're so cool. But just seeing all this happen, this race relations and all the prejudice happening against this little girl, and the community trying to figure out what they believe in this time and what really happened. And you see kind of their experiences go into that too. They've had these experiences in one way or another in their life too. I I'm going to stop talking because I could go on forever, but themes of, gender roles and class and religion all there, and it's so beautiful, and it's amazing. Debut, April 2020.
That was great. That was great. Now you're making me want to read it again. And I echo everything that Lainey said. It's so funny that you said that, because we were talking one day about this book, and we both said at the same time. Well, I had said, well, I was thinking it was Flannery O'Connor, and you said that's what I was thinking, it was Flannery O'Connor. I'm like, that's so weird. And it's so
Gritty, in a way.
And the landscape and the women are so strong, and it's just, you feel it, man. You are there with what's going on, and it's palpable. It's just, what a great writer.
And I have the word redemption. It's all about redemption and how they're figuring it out. And in these scenes, some of the things that happen, it's like Flannery O'Connor. Like, there's these scenes that stick with you, and you're like, that's going to go down in history, and everybody's going to know about that scene. It's beautiful.
Yeah.
Read it.
I don't know if it's an official comp. I thought of Jennifer Haig's Heat and Light. I love Jennifer Haig. That was one of the first books I read. I don't know if you got that feeling, but just like the different characters and how well they're written.
Yeah.
And especially the South, kind of like...
Yeah.
I think the author might have said like Harper Lee, kind of this big coming to end trial in a way, like trial of these people coming together. So I don't know if that's...
Yeah,
but
it's all in the read, so we really hope that you check that out, and obviously check out everything that we're talking about. We love your feedback. Love to hear what you guys think. You don't have to love everything that we love, but we're really just kind of trying to point out things that we as a group and individually are really hot on. So there we go. Where are we up? What are we up to?
We are up to... Yeah. The Last Train to London by Meg Waite Clayton, who is the New York Times bestselling author of Beautiful Exiles. She's a critically acclaimed New York Times bestseller, 6 novels total. And this is telling the story of Truce Weissmuller, thank you very much, who basically was at the head of, in 1936, so just to frame this, because I think this is interesting and important to note. So in 1936, you think of the Nazis, and when people think of the Nazis now, they think, people who were killing, hundreds and thousands and millions of people. But in 1936, before the war really came to a head, they were just kind of like, they were a threat, but they weren't this huge source of evil, and people didn't know the extent to what they were doing. But basically, this takes place where you have Truce, who's a member of the Dutch resistance, and she takes it upon herself, once they figure out that the Nazis are this growing threat, that she's going to smuggle Jewish children out via the Kindertransports, which they basically carried thousands of children out of Nazi-occupied Europe to safety. And while the Kindertransports have been written about pretty extensively, for whatever reason, Truce she's little known. She was recently honored in Holland for her heroism. People know about her, but this is the first novel that's inspired by her life. So you can think of like The Nightingale, Lilac Girls, All the Light We Cannot See. Just one of these incredible stories that needs to be known, and it follows her as she takes it upon herself again to rescue all these children out of Europe. There's a lot of great quotes that I think frame it really well. Kristen Hanna, who I mentioned, she's the New York Times bestselling author of The Nightingale. Any fans, if you read that amazing book, come to this. But she says, "The Last Train to London is an absolutely fascinating, beautifully rendered story of love, loss, and heroism in the dark days leading up to World War II. Clayton perfectly captures the tension and heartbreak of the times, which feel so relevant today. It is a glowing portrait of women rising up against impossible odds to save children," which, if there's ever a story that needs to be told, saving kids, Nazi-occupied Germany, and the incredible, I guess, risks that she took upon herself, including going after, I want to get his name right, let's see here. She basically confronted Adolf Eichmann, who was... This was early in his career, but he was basically the guy who devised the final solution to the Jewish question. And she confronted him about this and, getting these children out of these war-torn areas. A really incredible big book for us. It's coming September 10th. We have galleys, obviously. Please do check it out. Yeah. Don't have anything else you want to... Yeah.
No, she's wonderful.
She is. Yeah. And where's she based out of? Oh, California.
California.
So,
But she, you could Google this Truce Weissmuller, and there's so much information on her, and that she, as Chris said, that she's not terribly well known, but in these pockets, she is quite well known, and they're erecting statues in streets and not forgetting her.
Yeah, so hopefully this will.
I love when we're telling stories that that people need to know about.
Yeah, it's always
Yeah,
fascinating.
you're right. We are telling stories that people need to know about. Here's another one. This is and that's historical fiction. This is straight fiction. This is called Mercy House. Now, where's the author photo?
We have 5 minutes, guys.
There's 5 minutes. Okay. Here's the author photo.
Skip your next session, everyone.
Skip your next session. Stay with us.
Yeah.
Elena Dillon lives in Massachusetts, in Beverly. And I love this book so much. I'll be very quick. This is a paperback original. This is called Mercy House, and this is about a halfway house set in Bed-Stuy, Brooklyn, that is run by nuns. Sister Evelyn is kind of a badass nun. She's like, they cut from a different cloth. It's and she takes in these women who are abused. So you've got a lot of different characters. It doesn't matter who they are. They are abused women from the neighborhood, and they know to go there to Mercy House. They will go up at any time of the day or night, and she will let them in, and these nuns will help them. However, there's a problem. So they're in Bed-Stuy, Brooklyn, and before you know it, the house is under suspicion because they're afraid that they're breaking Catholic doctrine, so the Vatican sends a bishop to investigate this house. And so Sister Evelyn, the badass nun, as I like to call her, she's trying to sort of cover up the things that she has done to help these women. She's helped them try to get abortions, divorces, birth control, all the big no-nos in the Catholic Church. And so she's trying to cover that up, and they are breathing down her back, and they are going to break her, and they're going to knock this place down, and they're going to use it to their own financial benefit. And that's the crux of the story. There's a whole nother story behind Sister Evelyn. You got to read it. It's great. It's gritty. It's raw. It's got humor and warmth. I loved it. That's Mercy House. That is Mercy House by your local Elena Dillon, who lives in Beverly, Massachusetts. I hope you have her to your library.
All right. I have The Big Shebang, her story of the universe according to God the Mother by Marisa Acocella. Marisa is a cartoonist for The New Yorker. She's the New York Times bestselling author / artist behind Antenna, Cancer Vixen, which was named one of Time Magazine's top 10 graphic memoirs. And so this is basically a retelling of history, which is, usually written by a bunch of men for a bunch of men. Oh, am I blocking my face? Don't want to do that. So this is an art book told in very glorious and clever and hilarious stories. This is, I don't know if you'll be able to read this. I want to give you an example of kind of like the really cool stylized art that Marisa's using. But this is kind of, telling the stories that are not told enough, whether it's Persephone, Kali, Isis, Delilah, to, of course, RBG. We know we love RBG. And it's really just a kind of this cool time hop space adventure, again, detailing all the women we need to know about. So it's going to be a really cool art book. And there's more spreads actually on Edelweiss if you want to check out some of the art. And this is coming in November.
Okay, so now we have literally 2 minutes, and we have 3 books, so we are just going to give you the keynotes.
Okay, this is Jessica Stern. She's the foremost expert on terrorism. She's co-written a lot of books, Denial, which was selected as Washington Post Best Book of the Year. And her story, My War Criminal, is this analysis of her 2-year worth of conversations with Radovan Karadzic, who is a Bosnian Serb former politician who's been indicated for war crimes. My War Criminal. And she just had a lot of conversations with him and trying to figure out how his brain worked. They have a really interesting relationship as she goes to The Hague to meet him. So he was really charismatic, and she's trying to put those 2 thoughts together of how he could do this. So you're going to check out My War Criminal out in January. And then quickly, I have The Chestnut Man, which is such a great story too. So the television show creator of The Killing, Soren Sveistrup, in Copenhagen. He wrote this book. It's so amazing. It's a horror thriller. It's dark. I'm going to tell you, it's very dark. It centers around this this killer who's leaving chestnut men, chestnut with little matchsticks when he's doing these really brutal killings. Have to decide who it is, who done it. Dark, but so good. It's 500 pages, and I read it in 2 days. It was really good.
That is so dark, and I don't know if this is one word or 2 words, but I'll say it anyway. Bonesaw. Okay, last book. Such a scary book. This is not a scary book. This is Gay Like Me by Richie Jackson. Richie Jackson is an award-winning Broadway, TV, and film producer. He most recently produced Harvey Fierstein's Torch Song trilogy, and this is a story that he has written, a love letter, frankly, to his son. He's 18 years old. He's come out of the closet, and he's basically telling him the differences between what life was like for himself growing up, a young man, a gay man, and what life will be like for him. Never let your guard down. Yes, the world is much more accepting, but there are dangers everywhere. There are dangers everywhere. There's still a lot of hatred out there, and that he wants him to be careful. He cares for him. He worries about him, but he wants him to have a happy and successful life, but forewarned. So that is Gay Like Me, A Father Writes to His Son by Richie Jackson. I wish we had more time. Thank you so much for inviting us to be part of your conference. We truly appreciate it. If you would like to take part in the beans and the bugs and the hats, maybe not the Boston cream pie, and anything else we've talked about, write us an email, send us anything you want, write to us on Facebook Live. If you have questions, if you want us to send galleys to you, anything you want, please. We're happy to help and get anything to you that you find interesting here on this table. So thank you so much. We know you have to go. Please do check out the mystery program tomorrow with Catherine Hall Page, Peter Swanson, and
Paul Tremblay.
Bye.
Bye.